Hi, welcome to section 5.3. We're on page 128, and today we're talking about comparing ser and estar. So, as I've mentioned a few times already this semester, ser and estar both mean to be, but they're going to be used for different purposes. Okay, so we have the charts here in the book. I'm just going to read along with them and then reiterate points as we go. So, uses of ser, okay, are going to include nationality in place of origin, profession or occupation, characteristics of people and things, generalizations, possession, what something is made of, time and date, and where or when an event occurs. Estar is going to be used for location or spatial relationships, for health, physical states and conditions, emotional states, certain weather expressions, and then ongoing actions with the progressive tense. So one thing I want to point out to you that might make it easier to tell the difference between these two, and when one would be used over the other, is that ser is used for more permanent, states of being, and estar is used for more temporary states of being, okay? So, for example, your nationality and your place of origin, that's something permanent. Even if you don't live there long term, if you move, you're still always going to have been born where you were born, okay? Your profession or occupation, again, this isn't something that's technically permanent necessarily, but it's also not temporary. So, if you're a teacher, that's who you are all of the time. And it can be temporary. You could be a teacher and then in 10 years you're a nurse or vice versa. But it's a state of being that is more permanent than temporary, okay? Characteristics of people and things. So I am tall. I am very nice. I am a quick learner. Things that describe your personality are going to be more permanent, right? Those are things that aren't so easily changed. Generalizations, it's necessary to work. It's difficult to study at the beach. Also things that are just more statements of being, like that are permanent. Those are just truths, okay? Matters of possession, the suitcases are hers. Las maletas son de Silvia, okay? What something is made of. Las llaves son de metal. Esta botella es de plástico. That's a permanent state of being, right? It's not something that's changeable. Time and date. Now, these might be a little bit trickier to remember, right? But it's because clearly time and the date, those are changeable. They're temporary, but we're also going to use ser for this one. So that might be one that you might need to really set to memory because it doesn't necessarily follow this rule precisely. But we're going to use ser for those, okay? And then where or when an event occurs. Again, so like time and date. La fiesta es en mi casa. El concierto es a las 8. Okay? All of those are going to use ser, excuse me. So then estar is going to be used for more temporary things. So location or spatial relationships. El hotel no está lejos. Adrián está en el cine. If we look at that first example about the hotel, it's saying the hotel is not far. The hotel, it doesn't move, right? It's in a permanent position, but you yourself move. So it's not far because you are not far from it. That's a spatial relationship, and that's temporary because if you move forward, you're either going to move closer or farther away from it. Adrián está en el cine. He's at the movies. He's not always going to be at the movies. He's there right now, temporarily. Okay? Health is also something else that is temporary. You might be healthy today, but you may not be healthy tomorrow, okay? Hopefully you will be, but that's something we're also going to use estar for. It's more of a temporary state of being. Physical states and conditions, okay? You might be tired today, you might still be tired tomorrow, but that can change. It's temporary, okay? Emotional states, you might be very happy right now, but you might be really angry in an hour. Emotions are very fluid, just like physical states like that. Those are going to use estar. Certain weather conditions, so it's like cloudy outside, it's sunny, All of those, also temporary, we're going to use estar. And then finally, for ongoing actions, as with the progressive tenses, like we already talked about last section with the present progressive. All right, so ser and estar with adjectives. Now, with many adjectives, both ser and estar can be used, but the meaning is going to change. So statements with ser describe inherent qualities, okay? So permanent inherent qualities that don't really change. Estar is going to describe temporary and changeable conditions. So for example, Juan es nervioso. Okay, Juan es nervioso versus Juan está nervioso. For one thing, you want to make sure that you know the difference between es and está, which one's which. So if you haven't memorized your conjugations for ser and estar, now would be a good time to do that. Juan es nervioso. Juan is nervous, but he's a nervous person, okay? So this is like an inherent quality. It's part of his personality, his temperament, that he is nervous. He's inclined to nervousness. Versus Juan está nervioso. He might be nervous because he has a test later, or he's proposing to his girlfriend, or he got a train, the police pulled him over. He's nervous because he's going to get a ticket. He's nervous right now. That's temporary, okay? So the other example we're given here. Ana es elegante versus Ana está elegante. And the example they give for estar, they're going to use hoy at the end, but it's not necessary to say specifically she is elegant today. Ana es elegante. That's telling us she's an elegant person. She is very poised and collected and has an air of elegance about her. Just something about her inherently is elegant. Versus Ana está elegante. Maybe she's very dressed up. She has a wedding to go to or some sort of fancy event, and she looks very elegant today, okay? So that's the difference between how these would use. So if you're talking about an inherent quality, you're going to use ser. And if you're talking about more of a temporary quality, you will use estar. Now, the meaning of some adjectives will change completely depending on whether they're used with ser or estar. So for example, listo, okay, used with ser is going to mean smart. Versus with estar, it's going to mean ready. So el chico es listo, the boy is smart, versus el chico está listo, the boy is ready, okay? We have la profesora es mala, the professor is bad, like an inherent quality, versus la profesora está mala, she's sick, okay? Jaime es aburrido. This is a good one, I think, to really show. Aburrido. So, Jaime es aburrido, that means he's boring. He is boring to everyone else. Versus Jaime está aburrido, he is bored. Okay, so the difference between boring and bored. Okay, las peras son verdes versus las peras están verdes. So the first is they are green, like that's their color, versus they are not ripe yet, okay? El gato es muy vivo. Vivo, like listo, like clever. Versus vivo with estar means alive. Okay? And then the last example they give us here, seguro. Él es seguro, he's a confident person, versus él no está seguro, he's not sure. Okay? Now, when referring to an object, ser seguro means to be safe. Okay, so el ascensor es seguro. The elevator is safe. All right, that's it for this section. I'm going to do manos a la obra. As always, you're welcome to pause the lecture to do the activity, or you can follow along. So, we're forming sentences with ser or estar. All right, so number 1. So we can do it either way. So I'm going to alternate. Alejandra está cansada. And notice here, they give you cansado. You have to match. You make any necessary changes. Okay, ellos están... And then notice we have to change guapo. Guapos hoy. Carmen es alta. Okay, so here we're using es because we're referring to inherent quality of being tall. That's a permanent inherent quality. We have to use ser. 4. Yo estoy en la clase de español. I am in the Spanish class right now, temporary. Number 5, la película es a las 11. Remember when we're talking about a date or time? That's going to be written with ser. Number 6, hoy es viernes. Again, date. We're going to use ser. Número 7. Nosotras estamos enojadas. Okay? Enojadas to match nosotras, and estamos because that can change. Feelings and emotional states are temporary. Number 8, Antonio es médico. And that's a profession. That's a more permanent state. We use ser. 9, Romeo y Julieta están enamorados. Can't really read that. Let me write that again. Enamorados. Número 10. Los libros son de María Eugenia. That's possession. Son. 11. Marisa y Juan están estudiando. We use that for the present progressive. And number 12. La fiesta es en el gimnasio. All right, that's it for this lesson. Please let me know in the forum if you have any other questions, and I'll let you know my answers to those questions there.